Order. Please call the roll.
Mayor Randy Burke.
Here.
Commissioner Ken Gaspar.
Aye.
Commissioner Aaron Davina.
Here.
All right, we'll all stand as you're able for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, any agenda amendments by Commissioner? No. Okay. All right, we'll move on to regular business, and we're only doing one item and one item today only. It's time sensitive, that's why we're doing this meeting, and it has to do with a grant window. And the grant window for Main Street ends on 3rd of June. So for us to try to get it in a work session and then try to vote on it, there's just not enough time if we put this off. So we'll plan on voting on this discussion today, and then we'll vote at the City Council on Thursday. All right. Does everyone have the 5 June letter that was sent by Main Street to the city? 5 June letter? Okay. All right. Any discussion on the letter? Any questions on the letter? Go ahead.
Well, I don't have any yet, but there should be. That's why we're here, right?
Sure.
I know Commissioner Indavina has
I was just making sure any other discussion was to be made. Yeah, I received this letter, and I also received other letters from Main Street according to the breakdown, because at the last meeting I was asking to explain the entire breakdown of the $75,000 request, and I wanted to see exactly how it broke down, and I was submitted a letter through Miss Anderson and Mrs. Anderson, sorry, and it broke down some of those, and I am okay with what was presented in front of me for that letter. However, it does show a different number than what we're here to talk about today. Now, today we're here to talk about $25,000.
Well, remember, we didn't have this letter when we talked about it last time. That's just so we are not bound by that 25,000 and another 25,000.
Right.
We are not bound by that. And now that I've seen this breakout and I see where the 75,000 comes from, it's changed my mind a little bit on the original ask. So.
Okay. A couple of the big questions I'm having up front going forward. Since we have a gentleman here who's representing the municipal law firm, and I didn't get your first name.
Nate.
Nate, thank you. I'm Darren. We're already under contract with Monett Main Street and have been, and we have a renewable every annual for that contract since 2012. Is this new ask a new contract, and does it supersede what we already have in place? Moving forward, what will that do for us?
You would need a new agreement between the two parties. So there's the statute that allows that private partnership with the government and outlines what has to be in there. And so it has to be passed by ordinance, and there has to be a written agreement between the parties of what that money is going to be spent on.
So it's time for a new agreement wholeheartedly all the way moving forward with
Yeah,
this.
I mean, there are some issues with the previous agreement. I mean, it's not bad. I mean, I think it covers the bases. But I mean, if you're going to change the amount, I mean, then you would need to update that.
That's only for changing the amount.
Yeah,
Not an additional.
No, I mean, I reviewed it. It's not super specific on what the items are going to be spent on.
Right.
The issue I had is I don't know if anybody can find me. Was this originally passed by ordinance? Do we know how it got approved? I mean, that's kind of the question we
It's by ordinance.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it makes provisions if there's not funding available that it terminates. It doesn't bind. The next council can terminate it, which is what you look at as far as these agreements go.
So this is based on the original agreement for what, 2012?
Yeah, for $25,000.
Yeah, and then our city attorney has drafted this memo and this new.
There isn't, I mean,
ordinance.
and which
That's
is more inclusive of what should be there. It's not. It covers all your bases anyway.
Okay, so I'm I just need to back up for everything. We're here to discuss the potential of an additional sum of what?
25,000.
25,000.
That's what this memo says. So in anticipation of this meeting, I had the city attorney draft up the documents that we need
Right.
if the council moves forward on this gifting of 25,000.
Okay, and it's a one-time.
One time.
According to the way it's written, it's
So
one time.
the attachments that we received, this, I see the original agreement, and there's highlighting in yellow and in green, and in brown, actually, or orange. What does all that signify?
That's a review by the attorney, and then they put together these new documents in case.
So do we need to discuss these items, these highlighted items? Are they color-coded in such a way that they're bringing out
Can you
certain
put them on the screen? No.
issues, certain items to us?
I think it was just addressing different items as you go through. I mean, the things that are, could probably use more definition. The green items, when we talk about what they're, I think are fairly vague in the definitions as far as the Missouri statute.
So that's
Missouri
been
statute
corrected
70.
in this document.
So the third attachment, no, that's still the original.
Yeah. So in your packet would be this new draft. It says draft on it.
The new public service agreement.
Right. So moving forward, one time
There.
question. And I proposed line items at the last council meeting discussing the subject of when we need to move forward with a request from Monett Main Street as a line item. And again, we sit down at the table, we confer with our attorneys, and we make these decisions. Is this not going to happen now because we are just now talking about a one-time $25,000 request? Or does this prevent any future, at least for the annual up until next year? Because I'm confused as to saying it this way. If they are requesting this amount of money and in the future need an additional amount of money, will it not be at this table again for decision making?
The current amount of 25,000, we don't do a line item accounting of that.
Right.
The city doesn't.
That's
do
my
that.
point, yeah. So that, then
You
that-
get accounting from,
Yes,
from the,
yes.
you can verify that it's being spent.
Yeah, and we have representation on the Main Street Board.
Okay,
I
that's
sit
right.
on it. Mike sits on it as a citizen, and then Commissioner sits on it.
So if we, this ordinance that we have in front of us, this is an ordinance, right?
Yes.
Okay, so this ordinance that we have just tells us one time?
Mhm.
I mean, it says one time in there, does it not? So we
Yes.
do it one time, and then we have plenty of representation on the board to make sure that it is spent the way it has. But
So, sorry, is this ordinance to replace the existing agreement we have, or is this ordinance for this new ask?
Just for this new ask.
Got it. Thank you.
This is why I questioned the original contract dating 2012 to this new one. I was confused too as to whether this was a new rewritten contract for the Main Street organization to replace the 2012 document.
I would say we would want to review the old agreement prior to the setting of the new budget in 26, 27.
well, if I look at the justification of this, the Main Street's really shifting gears. It's not just doing a couple of events down there. It is about economic development downtown. And when I look at their numbers and when you're starting up and you're going a different direction, instead of being reactive, now they're going to be proactive. They've got a very capable board down there. I'm sure when it comes to money and budgets, there's plenty of expertise on that board, along with any supervision, not with the representation we have here in the city. So the grants in Serena, I'll let you talk. The grant windows are at the end of this month, correct?
Some of them.
Okay.
I think it would be better, rather than asking me piecemeal questions, would be to allow me to sit at the table and kind of talk about the proposal and what's in it. And
Sure.
it might answer a lot of questions that way.
All right, yeah, in the interest of time, go ahead.
I have additional information to share with you as well.
Welcome.
Thank you. First of all, I appreciate having the opportunity to sit and talk with you today, because typically I've been doing this for 27 years, and typically when I come to a city council for something, I give a presentation, I answer questions, and make sure everyone has the information they need. And this being the first time out of the four times you've all been kind of presented with this information has probably made it very difficult to digest. So hopefully that I'll be able to do a good job of putting the pieces together. I have some copies of the grants, some of the grants that we'll be applying for, that I would like to pass around and make sure everyone, at least our elected folks. So there's one for each of our elected folks and then one for. So one thing I want to clear up, first of all, the amount that we've requested is $75,000. I don't know how it became $25,000, probably just because we weren't here to explain and talk through the details. So we are requesting $75,000. The reason we feel comfortable doing that is because as we look at the agreement we've had with the city for the past 13 years, we have a scope of work. Some of it is economic development. There are a variety of things we've been asked to do. And what we've done is we've managed to utilize the $25,000 we've gotten every year, and we've accomplished a certain set of things. We've peaked out at what that money will do. That was a very reactive mission that we had. Essentially, we sort of sprang up when the city had a project. We would get in and raise money and do the things that needed to be done, and then we would give that asset back to the city. Recently, the board decided that those efforts really weren't making a dent in the downtown in any way, shape, or form. We've got a lot of empty buildings, a lot of buildings that don't have businesses in them, they're falling apart. We're sort of at a breaking point of what needs to be done down there. So we sort of decided as a group that we needed to take our jobs a little bit more seriously and come up with efforts that we were driving, still supervised by the city, but to be able to accomplish much bigger goals. So over the past year, we've worked hard. We've come up with a strategic plan that is aligned with the new strategic plan that the city has written. We have put together a board redevelopment package. We've got an entirely different board with community leaders that you're all used to seeing around town that are doing other big things. We have a redevelopment plan that folded into the mayor's redevelopment proposal that was given to the Economic Development Council recently. So there were two components. One was an overall community component and one was a downtown component. And I wrote the downtown part of it. So I've been engaged with this work for quite some time. What we need to do, we need to save the buildings that are falling down. We need to intentionally recruit businesses to the downtown that are going to bring vitality, bring people down there to spend money. The work we do is on behalf of the city in partnership with you. We are not a standard charity that's here looking for a handout because we can't pay our bills. We're here looking for an investment, as if you're investors, which you have been thus far, to increase our efforts and our output. So with that in mind, this is how this is put together. When we ask for $75,000, part of that is because we've never had staff. It's been volunteer-led. Everything we've done has been volunteer-led. Our volunteers are exhausted. Some of them have left after 12 or 13 years. They've put in their own money, their own time, blood, sweat, and tears, and they've had enough. They can't do it anymore. It's a lot to ask on behalf of the city. So what we're here to do is talk about different ways of doing things. In my work, I build fund development proposals based on diversified segments of fund development. Grants is one portion of that. Grants are not things you want to be dependent upon for long periods of time. They're good for capital projects. They're good for startups and doing things like that, but they're not good for sustainability. So grants is a portion of our fund development plan. but also we've got other things in there, and we have 2 commissioners here who have sat on our board before who are aware of those different elements that we've built into our new plan. So we have standard fundraising, we've got events, we've got sponsorships, we've got a series of new things that we want to do, and after this meeting we'll be flying our projects out around town. Today, the reason I brought grants to the forefront to talk about is because when you're a nonprofit and you're applying for a grant, typically there's a request that there's a match. Oftentimes that match is a cash match, sometimes there's an in-kind match. There are different ways of meeting that match depending on the grantor and the complexities of the commitments. So that's sort of the area that I'm leaning into here. And in past discussions where there's been concerns about, well, we're just paying for this staff member, well, without a staff member, nothing is happening. You always have staff. You have staff. Most of the nonprofits I've been with, all of them, have had staff to do a variety of things. Essentially, you're leaning on one individual who's had a vast experience in doing a variety of different things to try and put all those pieces together. And I'd say we've done a pretty good job over the last year of getting these things together. So for the grants, and this is sort of the way that it's worded in the letters, to just kind of understand that in order for us to apply for a grant, we have to have a commitment of those matches. How will that work? There are a lot of things that we can articulate, and that's something that if we go forth with this agreement, I'll need to come in and have some fast and quick meetings with our city administrator and other department heads to be able to articulate the in-kind things that have already been put in. So, for example, with Farmers Market, we have the use of the pavilion that we helped build, that we funded and helped to build, and that cost is built in. That costs the city money, that part is match.
The
So
funding
for
was
the
mostly
in-kind,
private donation, though.
raised by Monett Main Street. And so there are a variety of things you're already doing that provide those kind of in-kind support, okay? So what we're looking at now is for the cash matches to try and make that work and to help fund people doing the work that need to be done and the things that we need to get it done. What I want to do is just kind of...
On the cash match, so we give you $25,000, and then where's the match come from?
Well, let me explain about the $25,000. So the existing agreement you have, we have a contract for specific things. It has a scope, which we've clearly met because the council continues to fund us year after year. So they must be pleased with what we're doing, but we only are able to deliver a certain amount of things, okay? So that money, when you're applying for a grant, you can't match with something that you're already getting. You can't supplant funds that were already in your budget to do something different. So if we took from the $25,000 you gave us to use as a match, we would have to discontinue the farmers market or discontinue the repurposed fair or stop doing the downtown beautification things we've done. If we reallocate that money, we are removing things that we are already accomplishing for you under an existing agreement. So the $75,000 that we're requesting is new money to help us get these new things done. So there's just kind of 2 things that are going on there. I brought to you 13 grants today, and there are more. And I know that there's some good number crunchers in this room, so I ran out of ink. I apologize. It's a little rudimentary pencil work here, but the packet that I've given you, I created a cover sheet for with my little pencil handwriting. What I've done there is I've listed all 13 grants that I'm presenting to you, the range of the funding that could be received based on each request, and I've categorized those into 4 different categories. So redevelopment, which is directly impacting buildings and or businesses that would occupy those buildings. The farmers market, which is an existing program that it's okay. It's by no means thriving, and there are some good things that can happen for that. So some of that. Arts and culture, which would help with events and locations and a variety of things that would stir up economic development around town. And then outdoor spaces. When you drive downtown, especially if you're not from here, it feels very blighted. It feels empty. It feels abandoned and kind of evacuated. In the conversations I've had with the business owners downtown, they feel like they're out on their own. and like they're not getting that help. So everything that we're putting together is in response to that kind of information that I've been gathering for the last 2 years. Each one of these things, I just kind of went through and pulled some of the highlights out. So I categorize it in those 4 purpose areas, when they're due. Some of them are due in June, some of them are due later on. There's name, award range, what agency's doing it. You get the description. The category that will matter the most to you as far as application is where you see potential use. So under each of these 13 grants, I sort of articulate how I think we can write the grant and spend that money for the greater good of the community. So I'll try and be quick with this. The first one from the National Trust Preservation Funds. With this one, it's a smaller grant. I want to use this to kind of reach out to the folks that own the businesses downtown that maybe have never had a voice. So we've got a large population of business owners. I think it's about 38% or so that are owned by Latino families who have not been really engaged in conversations before about what to do downtown. This grant would give us an opportunity to really open up conversations with them and re-engage with our existing businesses and building owners down there, creating downtown hall meetings once a month, workshops that are educational to them, specific to their needs, like flooding in the downtown, their roofs are collapsing. What are the specific challenges that they have down there?
Is this a matching grant?
This one, under the match information, there's a place for that. And it does say a grant of one-to-one basis. So if we're asking for $5,000, then $5,000 of that $75,000 that I'm asking for goes into that grant. Okay, so then we're down to 70 at that point. So that's how that works. This next one is farmers market.
I'm sorry. Do we need to go down all the?
I think it's really
opportunities?
important that we do.
I don't think it's going to matter to my decision whether the city funds. It's important work for you all. I agree. Absolutely. I think this is a discussion more for your board than it is for this board. So.
Well, I think questions have been asked, especially at the last meeting, to really clarify the work that we're wanting to do. So this is in response to those questions that were asked on May 22nd. So I guess it's up to you, the 3 of you, to decide if you'd like to know more about what we're planning on doing.
One question I have on Missouri Main Street. I mean, that was one of the things. If you want to be plugged in and participate with Missouri Main Street, one, you got to have an executive director. And they're the ones that are helping you with these grants.
Some of them, yeah.
I'm going to concede the point that these funds are needed so that you all can go and do your work. I have no qualms with that. I have no challenge of that. So I don't know if we really need to spend a whole lot of time on the grants themselves.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I guess one way to look at it, this is just not our work. This is also your work. We exist to serve the city. That's why we were created by the city and the Chamber of Commerce. So it's almost like if you're talking to a department head and they're explaining to you why their budget's a certain way. That's the way I approach my work with you all.
But we established in the last meeting that we would not be getting into the fine details of that organization. Because if we want to do that, I have a lot of questions about how the organization's budget was created and its funding.
You mean during the time you were on the board or after, since you left?
The budget that was presented to us in the last meeting.
I can answer any of those questions
There are
if you'd
revenue.
like.
Okay, so there are revenue items on there that are fundraising items that don't have a whole lot of detail attached to them. Such as downtown beautification of $2,500, $2,500 for dog park, $1,500 for business relations, $17,000 for sponsorship administration, $2,600 for farmers market, when in the previous fiscal year, the revenue was $825. Repurpose fair shows revenue of $5,500 and the previous year was $5,500. So if we want to go down to these details, I'll ask a real ton of questions about Monett Main Street's fundraising capabilities and capacity historically and what's being presented for the future, especially when you're asking now for $75,000 when we were originally being asked for $25,000. And to your point earlier about the $25,000 that the city has been donating each year, it's contractual. It's not based on the council being happy with the performance of the Monett Main Street organization. It's contractual. You get it every year automatically no matter what. So where do we want to go?
Well, first of all, that was never supposed to be submitted to City Council. That's an internal document, but we believe in transparency, and I can answer every single one of those questions if you really truly wanted to hear the answers to those things.
I'll
So
let you answer if we really want to go
by
into all the
point.
detail about those grants. I just don't, I
So-
don't feel we need to. I don't want to get involved in Monett Main Street business. But if you're going to be asking for that sum of money, I want to make sure that the city's money is being spent wisely and that the city's going to gain from the $75,000.
Yeah.
$100,000 full year spend. So that's a significant amount of money when those dollars could be used differently within the city to benefit the entire
Certainly.
city.
I don't know if the city has in its budget other things to do to work on the economic development of the downtown or not, because I don't have your budget. So I don't know what you have planned to do downtown. So we're working in a bit of a vacuum in that sense. The agreement does have a stipulation that if the city felt like it wasn't getting what it was paying for, the city could terminate that agreement at any time and for any reason. So it's not an automatic. It is approved by
it
you
is.
every year to give us that funding.
It's not automatic.
So clearly that means we've been delivering the services we were hired to do. We were created by the city. We don't just exist on
opinion.
our own. No, that is fact. We were created between the city and the
No, I'm saying
chamber.
the city being happy with the performance is opinion.
Well, the city is a lot of people, 10,000, so I don't know about all of 10,000 of them. But we continue to be funded, and we have representation on our board, and so things are moving along. The funds that you have there, some of those are net numbers because our former treasurer wasn't providing us with the types of details that we needed to.
Which
To be
this,
able
this
to-
document is net?
Yeah.
Well, it's
So
broken
we
out
had to
revenue and
hire.
expenses.
We had to hire a CPA to untangle our finances last year because we did not have the information that we needed to be able to evaluate what was going on. So this is why we had to incur, when you see the list there that we've got some money we have to pay the CPA, it's to kind of remedy and have a professional evaluate where we were at. So unfortunately, that puts us in a bit of a quandary that way. So we see some net numbers. So the 5,000 from last year, it's impossible to know exactly what was going on because we didn't have access to the checkbook. We do now, but the notes are insufficient to help us really comb through things. So we've been doing the best we can to kind of recover that system and make it a more appropriate accounting system.
There was a loss of $21,000 last year. Well, this report goes to March 31st. So I guess that is your fiscal year. March 31 is your fiscal year end.
Same as yours.
Okay. So there was a $21,000 deficit spend last fiscal year, and you're proposing a $42,000 deficit spend this year. It's just hard to square that or circle that square when the ask is $75,000. Because right now with the $25,000 level, the city is putting in 41% of your projected revenue for FY26.
And it's previously been like 100% of the revenue. So the thing is,
That's exactly my point.
Right.
My point is, where's Monett Main Street's skin in the game? We talk about these grants being matching grants. I want to see a match too. I want to see if the city's going to put up money. I want to see where Monett Main Street is also fundraising, because I'm not seeing it.
well, so where you see that $20,000 investment, the board saw it as a $21,000 a deficit. We see it as an investment. So the reason that happened is because they hired contractor, consultant, me, to come in and help them figure out how to be a proactive board that could go out and raise money and lead their own mission and not be under just the call and play of when the city or the chamber had a project they wanted us to get done. So we've changed the way we do business. So there were funds in the bank. The board decided before I was ever hired as a consultant that they wanted to do that work, and I've been serving that need since then.
So let me ask that: how solvent is Monett Main Street for the $21,000 negative $21,000 spend and a projected $42,000 negative spend? If Monett Main Street does not get any additional funding,
We currently have
city.
about $140,000 in the bank. Some of it committed to the dog park project that we've been working on, and some to our general fund.
And that's about 80,000 dog park.
76 somewhere, 75
80,000.
somewhere around there, yes.
So
So the fundraising that you see on there, the first one, well, the bigger one is the $17,000 for this flag banner project that you personally refreshed for us and brought back to us, that we've been allowed to start working on the last couple of months. It was sort of held up. There were complications as to who was the one running it, there were some confusions out in the community that have been resolved. So that is
could be a
in our
different
budget.
Conversation, different time.
And we are running that, so we're going with that. We've been working with the schools and trying to find ways to make some of the nuances that were baked into the new proposal work out for everyone's benefit. So that is about to start. The $2,500 that you see for the dog park or for
Downtown beautification.
correct. What that is that's just assuming that there might be an additional cost. So that's put in the top and the bottom to wash out. So that's to say, well, if we get the dog park done, but we have an additional couple of things we have to pay for, let's just assume maybe that's $2,500 that we're going to have to raise for that. We know with our board members that the dollars that are on there are attainable.
So that makes your revenue projection even lower by taking those items out because they are netting. So again, I'm just looking for that commitment from Monett Main Street. If you're asking the city for that amount of money, that you're also committed to raising some funds, some matching funds.
Well, we have these board meetings and committee meetings that happen every month, and all of our board members are engaged, and they've all voted for this plan, so they must be behind it, and they're all leaders in the community, so they must not be too incredibly worried about whether or not we can deliver on those things.
Yeah, I'm not going to question that. I'm going to question what I have in front of me.
When I budget for revenues, I budget very conservatively. Those numbers don't really include a lot of the things that we're hoping to get done, and it doesn't have any of the grants really built into that.
And I wouldn't expect that.
So, and then I always tend to budget high with the expenses and anticipate things that we wouldn't have anticipated. So that's really kind of baked in there.
Take us home.
If you don't want to go through the details of these different things, that's
I really
fine.
don't. Let me ask you, without these
Yes.
grants, fundraising is the next opportunity to raise money for this organization.
Yes.
Have you talked to business owners and what is their response to being in or out or more?
I've been really busy working on the big ticket items and not the smaller dollar items. So when we talk about the redevelopment plan that I wrote for the downtown, I went out and met with Wintech and said, here are the 5 most expensive things in redeveloping a building is the roof, the windows, the bricks, the flooding, and we've got a series of things that are problems, right?
And the property
Getting
owner.
the property owners engaged. And so that plan was built after meeting with them and saying, what can you do to help us come to the table and help us make this affordable? And so I've got commitments from Wintech that says we'll give you windows for the mixed use upstairs. We'll give you the best price possible. We'll find a way to make this work because that's the element they can do. EFCO can do a lot of the commercial windows on the downstairs that are not historic buildings. We've got Monett Mirror and Glass that does the ones that are the most historic places. Clark Industries that builds machines that build trusses. We need roofs. If you don't have a roof, everything inside is ruined, as we've seen
But
here,
again,
right?
all that occurs with the property ownership.
And so one of the things...
That's the line that has to be crossed.
Right. So in the redevelopment proposal that you've seen, essentially what we're saying is that we bring all these pieces together. We bring the pieces of the local community that has the ability to leverage what they're doing to bring costs down. We have funds that come in from the city to help us leverage some of that plan. It's a new way of, new for Monett perhaps, and a way of cobbling some of these things
And how do
together
you
in an
determine-
overall plan.
Do you, if I may just ask, inspections happen through our fire department for all these buildings. Have you incurred last year's inspections? Y'all do it once a year, right? All the inspections of buildings. So have you inquired any of that information to see what needs to be done on building A, for example, starting off?
So the first thing that we did is we created a database. We've got this pretty powerful database where we've gone out and we've taken pictures of every one of the buildings in our
I've seen
downtown footprint.
I've seen some of
And we have gotten from the Missouri Main Street a list of what those conditions would be so we can classify them, because when you're asking for grant money, you want to know what is the condition that building's in, how much will it take to get there? And our proposal to building owners is going to be, this is the condition of your building. We'd all like to see it come into play. This is what it will take together, and it'll take more conversations and an invite inside of the building to get that intel.
Yeah.
I can't come to your fire department or your building department and say, please tell me all of the good, bads, and uglies about the buildings. That would be inappropriate.
But would
So-
isn't that public record? I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Sure.
Is that public record of your inspection?
Well, yeah, it can be.
Can be.
I'm not sure where you going with this.
I don't know.
It just seems irrelevant.
Yeah, okay.
Because the big picture here, are we committed to economic development downtown? And you've got a very capable board, and you've got someone here who's gone through and dotted the i's and crossed the t's. And instead of trying to micromanagement from here, let the exec director and the board
It's,
go ahead.
you called this meeting today because you wanted to have this meeting on a timely manner, which we all understand. We're all here present. She, when Serena sat down, as she was sitting here, she even mentioned her confusion between the $25,000 and the $75,000 difference.
Because I don't know how you guys were submitted 4 letters asking for $75,000, and now somebody's saying we're asking for 25. That's my confusion. Not what I've done, but how it was interpreted into being $25,000.
Okay, so if no one knows where the 25 came from, then we can consider different options. I mean, and Nate, as far as changing the amounts on there, it's not the content, it's just the amount. Is that correct?
On the new agreement?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you guys can do what you want. What you give, I mean, the issue is, what's left blank in there is what the exhibit is, what things are going to be done for that money. So that's what you all have to have some sort of agreement on how that money's going to be spent.
I just have one more question. Has the Monett Main Street organization approached the property owners of the Broadway corridor for any financial assistance, because they are going to personally gain from all your efforts?
We are working on that. I've only been contracted as the executive director since October, as you know. And during that time, building that redevelopment plan took a huge chunk of my time. We're ready to go out and talk with them now. I've talked to a variety of them because some of them we're already connected to. So the ones that have active businesses in them, a lot of them I have spoken to, especially the ones that have been here a long time in the market. We have to do a lot more work to bring out the ones that are not engaging in conversations, the ones that we haven't heard from. I have that database we talked about. I have all of their contact information. We've got aerials of the buildings. Like, we have enough information to sit down and say to them, this is what we know. How can we help you get there?
So you did not approach them prior to approaching the city?
A bunch of them I have.
And
they're all in for what we're doing. I haven't given them a
Have they committed
specific dollar
financially?
amount. No, it's not time for that yet.
That's what I was looking for.
There's an order of operations for processes like this. First thing you do is you find out how you're going to service the relationship, and then you ask them and you get them involved. So that's where we're headed.
So, thank you. So the mayor, you asked, are we committed to economic development in downtown? My answer is yes. Am I committed to it to a tune of $75,000? My answer is no.
Okay. What kind of figure do you think is reasonable based on the information?
I came in today with the $25,000. I had struggles with the $25,000, to be honest. I want to see the property owners of the downtown district have more skin in the game. I want to see the Monett Main Street organization have more skin in the game. I don't want the city dollars being used to fund the future efforts. 100%. I would like there to be more.
You're worried about beyond this? You're talking about next following years? You're talking about just this year?
No, I'm talking about just this year. Yeah. I'd like to see more commitment from the property owners downtown, and I would like to see more commitment from the Monett Main Street organization as a whole to engage in better fundraising. So that's just my.
One thing I'd like to draw your attention to is the amount of these grants. We're looking at a range of between $615,000 and $4.8 million. Somebody has to write those grants. Somebody has to bring the partners together to do all of that. The building owners are not going to be that. You can tell by the condition of their buildings. They don't have giant pocketbooks where they're sitting around, then they have that and they're just withholding that money for whatever reason. This is going to take a community effort. This effort is something that I was involved with the Ventura Chamber of Commerce between 2006 and 2010. This is exactly how we accomplished this down there in partnership with the city and the Chamber of Commerce. other Main Street organizations, downtown associations are doing this exact thing all around our country and having results.
I will tell you that if, in my opinion only, excuse me, if the city is going to be funding all of that effort, then all of that effort is going to be owned by the city and not the Monett Main Street organization.
Well, the city hasn't taken efforts to do the work that
But
we're
we could.
doing here. You certainly could, but you haven't.
But we could.
We're here to do it. And when you ask what Monett's had the skin in the game, they've been paying for a consultant for over a year now. They have put money in to get us to where we're at. So this has already been leveraged by funds that they had in the bank from other fundraising and things that they've had in there. So the skin is in the game. The skin is in the game when you look at the people who are around the table now, the seriousness of the people who are involved, and some of the commitments that they're making to this redevelopment to bring us products and things that we can leverage to get the work done. The city has never been
Optics
able to
aren't
do
there.
any of those things.
I understand what you're saying as far as the efforts are concerned. And I appreciate the efforts, past, present, and future. But the optics are, you're coming to us looking for $75,000 additional dollars. That does not purport to me skin in the game. That purports to me that you're looking for the city of Monett, the taxpayers' dollars, to fund the effort. I just can't support that wholeheartedly.
So do you have $75,000 in your budget to do the exact same things that I'm proposing to do here on behalf of the city?
I'm
Do you
not,
have that
year.
I'm not at
plan?
liberty I'm not here to answer that.
So the answer is
If,
No,
if-
there is
currently.
money to do economic development.
Is
It's
it
not
any of this?
75,000, it's 50. And so if we did this, there'd have to be a budget adjustment to raise those funds. Right.
sure.
and if we did this, it would give us $59,000 as skin in the game towards Monett Main Street this year alone.
Well,
The 25,000 we've already given.
Key word there, this is a loan. Whenever you do something like this, you're gonna have startup costs. And there's a
Totally understand.
complete turnaround and a plan and an association with Missouri Main Street. That's how Aurora, you and I went over there right after election last year, and we saw how Aurora did it. The city was involved, but it was a commission, a group of people like we have on Main Street doing the same things, talking with people,
Right.
and then working with Missouri Main Street, who have the expertise that is necessary
Right.
to redevelop a blighted area like downtown. That's why they exist.
I understand
And
totally.
revitalizing downtown is also something on the recent surveys for the 20-year comprehensive plan. That was also prevalent in there. So people clearly want it. Is the city going to put some skin in the game in this? I see where you're coming from, Ken, but I think based on what I'm hearing is that they've done their homework. They've looked at all these issues, all these different issues.
I'm not negating that. Yeah, I'm not refuting that at all. I'm just saying I would not be able to support an additional spend of $75,000. That's my statement.
One of the things I don't think if I put it in here or not, I have a donor that'll pay their original commitment was closer to $200,000, but that will fund the flood barriers for every single building that's threatened by floods down here. I have a donor, personally got that donor, which originally was a $250,000 commitment. However, in getting Cassie Branch on our board and meeting with Scott Beckwith over at ASI, found out that we could retrofit all of these buildings for $25,000 to $60,000. In fact, he was so excited that we asked him, he half-heartedly said, well, maybe I'll give them to you for free if you've got your plan going. There's a lot percolating in the background that wouldn't necessarily come out on a document like this. But the work has been done to make sure that there are people leveraging what they're doing in the community. It may not be the poor person who can't afford to fix the glass in their building because of the cost of that, or the change because now we have change of scope and things that are going on down there because those buildings have been inactive for so long. In order for them to do it is a huge undertaking to go work with the BOCA department. They need help with that. That's what we're doing. We're not asking you for a donation. We're asking you for an investment in a plan that's been massaged around town with leaders for 2 years. So this is not new information. Putting it together to you, bringing to you something that talks about what we're doing, and more so than our request is the strategic plan that you've all seen and the redevelopment plan that you've all seen that the Economic Development
Actually,
Council is adopting.
I haven't seen anything come from our current SIMCOG board or anything given to the council. Have you?
It's not done yet.
This isn't about.
It's not going to be done for another
Nothing
year.
is given. Okay, so we can't speak of that yet because it's not finished, I guess is the best way to say that.
Well, we're ready to go. We've been working to get to this point, and we're ready to go. So perhaps what you'd like to do is say, okay, 75,000 is a lot of money. Let's approve 25 now and see where we're at in 3 months. But again, we've got this timeliness of some of these matches that we do. So maybe what we do on that is say, okay, we don't like the 75, but we're willing to entertain it for this fiscal year. But maybe each quarter we dish it out based on a certain amount of measurements being accomplished. That seems reasonable to a contractor that's
That's what I was
doing services.
proposing at the last meeting on the 22nd. Give it to us in pieces, and then we'll support you in pieces, line items. That
So
was
let's
my-
do
my whole
25,000
idea.
each quarter.
Okay, 25,000 again gives us what? You know, just an investment. I'm asking,
No,
not
I'd rather- I don't wanna
disrespectfully.
do it every
Believe me.
quarter. All right, but we don't need to do this every quarter.
Well, the numbers are large. That's why I say
Every
that.
6 months is probably reasonable.
And every time we do it, we have to go rebudget. You know, every time these things hit the table.
$75,000 in the realm of what we're trying to do and what we're trying to save and what hasn't been done for the past couple of generations in the downtown, this is not a lot of money. I'm not sure
take
why it
exception
sounds
to
like
you
a
saying
lot of.
that sounds very offensive.
I
Because
apologize that you feel offended.
To me, it is.
That was
too.
not, I
Okay,
meant no offense. I'm just
I'm
saying
done with the
that
discussion. I'm done.
the investment in these projects haven't been.
Done with the discussion. I have no other questions.
I still have plenty of question marks about a lot of these things I'm not going to have to jump into this morning. But again, I'm not sold entirely yet. Just not. You gave me a breakdown. You mentioned yourself that it was, done in a, I don't know how you said it, but it was not exactly how you wanted it to be worded. And I don't know if I haven't presented this to council, this piece right here. That budget that was presented to the board on the 22nd, or the council on the 22nd, I did assume that we could talk about that in closed session with the council. We did not, so it came forward.
It's not
It
a
had to
closed
come
session
forward.
matter.
You can't talk in closed session about it.
It's not a
that's why I was-
document
I
that
was
we
answering the
submitted. It
question
was
as to why
submitted
we
by
had that.
you. It wasn't submitted by us. So it wasn't something we were expecting
I
to
was
be part
answering
of
the
this
question as to
conversation.
what you said about why it was in front of us.
Yeah.
I think the biggest question is this just an investment startup one time,
Yes.
period? So next year there's not going to be, we fell
Well-
short, we fell above, here's the money back that we gave you, we didn't need 75, here's 20 back, or we need 100. I mean,
We're not
that's
Keep in mind, we're not
always
consuming.
been in my loop.
We're not consuming your money. We're planting it and we're doing things with it.
When you
That's an
say it like
entirely
that, it
different
makes a
thing.
lot of sense. But then again, when you plant it, does it grow? That's all.
I don't know.
Does it?
We've had.
You'll find that over time. It's
True.
hard to-
True.
We can.
The reassurance
we can
is
throw
what we're
some money
asking.
now and
There's
every business-
evidence through Missouri Main Street with Main Street America and through the last 30 years that these plans have been implemented, that these plans work.
Mm-hmm.
So I can understand if it hasn't been done in Monett, why it might feel nebulous, why it might feel
Well, I think,
out of character for what's been done in the past. But this is a proven
right.
formula.
And it'll be not to call it under a microscope, but it'll be under a microscope.
That doesn't bother me. I've been under
I'm
that
just saying, it will
microscope
have
for
to be.
27 years.
It will have to
Plenty
be.
of visibility on how they spend the money. I think we need to make an investment here. I think it's a reasonable ask. 75 probably not. It's an additional 75, but I think 50 would work. Yeah, the question is, you want the 25 now and then 25 in 6 months. Will that work? Is that good enough to get you going?
The thing is, it's not even necessarily about whether or not you put the money in our bank today. It's that commitment where I'm able to sit down on ground and say the city's in for this amount. I've got to sit down and spend 10 or 100 hours writing a grant, going out and getting all the things that I need to do. This takes a lot of time and effort to do. You don't write a CDBG grant in a vacuum. That one's due in July. I'll be having to take a lot of time of your city administrator and some of your department heads to get that all put together. unfortunately, because now it's June and we've been talking about this since February, we're sort of under a different timeline, and that's why it feels so challenging. But it's just the nature of the beast, I guess. Sometimes it takes longer to get to this part of the discussion.
All right. Well, if you do the 25 and 25, that's $50,000 of city commitment in addition to 25.
So what you're suggesting is not thinking about our existing contract. That's still in place. It's already been approved for this year, so it's already in your budget. So what you're recommending is 50,000 with supervision, and whenever that gets there is whenever it gets there.
Yeah,
But
that's essentially. I'm not sure that's the way it's written, but yes.
I'm not in favor of it. I'm in favor of a one-time $25,000 additional spend as it's been documented in our package.
I think we got an opportunity here. I think we got a lot of opportunity
I
down
heard
here.
it. I heard it.
Uh,
I don't agree with it.
okay.
I want, as I stated, I want the property owners of the downtown district to be more committed through a financial mean other than the city being asked.
one of these multi-million-dollar
I
grants is to help pay for infrastructure that the city can't afford. So recently,
That's
we had a
my opinion.
property owner that came down and had to fund putting sprinklers in for just his one building, rather than solving a whole problem. What I want to do with that CDBG money is find out from the city, which I did ask at a previous work session, what's the solution for all of downtown? Should we put those mixed use in the upstairs? What would that look like? So I can ask for all of that money in a grant. The city gets a portion of that money to help pay for that infrastructure, and a portion of that money goes into other things that Monett Main Street contracts out with other people to do. We're not talking about just solving the problems of having somebody write grants. We're talking about problems that have been existing for a long time, and trying to solve some of these bigger problems, helping you the ways that we have in the past with some of our other projects. It takes money to do that.
Agreed.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think what's written we have right now 25,000 now, and then 25,000 in 6 months based on.
So what's going to be
how things
proposed? What's going to be proposed at the council meeting?
That I think that we'll propose that.
So you're going to be proposing 50,000 in additional funds,
It will
25
be
up
50,000,
front, and then
but
50.
25 grants, and then you have another grant window comes October, right?
Well, they throughout the year, and these aren't all the grants I'm
Okay.
looking at.
All right. I think it's
And
an
that's at one
opportunity
time?
investment.
Are we going one time?
Yes, Darren, it's one time.
Well, I'm just concerned about next year.
The
Next year will be here in
amendment
6
says one
months.
time. The amendment says one time.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Serena. I appreciate it. All right, so that's what we'll put on the agenda for Thursday. We'll put it to a vote. Is it hot?
Must be.
All right. Any more discussion on
adjourn.
Main Street? Oh, I knew. You want to talk about the 323? Is this a good time for that?
We'll do that on June 26th.
June
On the
26th.
agenda.
Yeah. All right. That'll be another discussion on what the city can do to help with downtown. It's not about spending money though. Okay, any motions to go into closed session?
We are going to close.
Yes.
We convene to closed session.
My second.
I'll second. You second, okay.
Okay, we got a third there too. So Kelly, call the roll.
That was just a
Mayor
question.
Randy Burke,
Yes.
Commissioner Ken Gaspar,
Aye.
Commissioner Darren Indovina.
Aye.
And who's on board?
Kelly, Sandra, Jessica Stantz, and Larry Howard. You don't need to stay, Dave. Okay. Yeah.